Sam had spent 3 weeks on the proposal, 47 pages, every detail perfect, and the client said no in under 2 minutes. The problem wasn't what Sam said. It was what happened in the 30 seconds before he said it. That proposal, the one Sam poured everything into, was for a marketing campaign worth $85,000. Sam's a 30-year-old marketing consultant earning $42,000 a year. He's sharp. His writing is clean. His research is thorough. His slide decks look like they came from an agency charging 10 times his rate. But his close rate? Barely 1 in 5. And he couldn't figure out why. He'd walk out of meetings thinking, what am I doing wrong? The book that finally gave him the answer is Pre-Suasion by Robert Cialdini. And here's why it matters. Cialdini isn't some random self-help author. He's the world's foremost authority on the science of influence. His first book, Influence, sold over 5 million copies in 44 languages and defined the entire field of persuasion psychology. Pre-Suasion is the sequel he wrote 32 years later. And in it, he makes a claim that flips everything you think you know about convincing people. This video covers every major chapter, so by the end, you'll have the full picture. Not just what persuasion is, but exactly how to use it starting today. Not because their relationship was actually worse, but because attention equals weight. Whatever you're focused on in the moment feels more important than everything you're not focused on. It's like a spotlight on a stage. Whatever the spotlight hits, the audience assumes is the star of the show, even if it's just a stagehand who wandered into the beam by accident. Focus creates perceived importance, and Cialdini takes this even further with a principle he calls what's focal is causal. People don't just pay more attention to what's in focus. They assume it's the cause of whatever happens next. That's a massive insight. And this is the part most people get completely wrong. In interrogation experiments, observers watched 2 people having a conversation through a one-way mirror. When they watched from behind person A's shoulder, making person B the focal point, they rated person B as more dominant, more influential, and more in control of the conversation. When researchers switched the camera angle and let observers watch from behind person B's shoulder, suddenly person A seemed like the leader. Same conversation, same exact words, different focus point, different conclusion about who was running the show. The implications are staggering. If you can control what someone is looking at, you can control who they think is in charge, without changing a single word of what's being said. Stay with me here because this connects everything we've covered so far. If attention equals importance, and importance equals perceived causation, then whoever controls what people focus on before a decision has enormous power over the decision itself. That's the engine of persuasion. It's not about what you say, it's about what people are looking at, thinking about, and feeling in the moment before you say it. So how does attention get captured in the first place? Cialdini identifies what he calls commanders of attention, and he splits them into 2 categories. First up, the attractors. 3 things automatically grab your attention whether you want them to or not. The sexual, because evolution wired us to notice reproductive cues instantly. Millions of years of survival pressure made sure of that. The threatening, because your ancestors who ignored danger didn't become ancestors. And the different, because novel, unexpected things break the pattern your brain is running in the background, and broken patterns demand investigation. Think of it like walking through a quiet forest on a path you've walked 100 times. You don't notice the 1,000th tree. You don't notice the familiar sounds. But the one tree that's on fire, you can't look away. Novelty, threat, and biological triggers are attention magnets. They work on everyone, every time, without exception. But here's the crazy part. Grabbing attention and holding attention are 2 completely different skills. A loud noise grabs your attention instantly, but it doesn't keep it. Cialdini calls the factors that hold attention magnetizers, and there are 3 of them that matter most. First, the self-relevant. Anything about me holds my attention because my brain treats self-related information as priority processing. If someone mentions your name across a crowded room, you hear it, even through the noise. That's not magic. That's your brain running a constant background filter for self-relevant data. Second, the unfinished. Open loops, incomplete stories, unanswered questions. Your brain hates loose ends and will keep circling back until the loop closes. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, named after a researcher who noticed that waiters remembered uncompleted orders perfectly, but forgot completed ones almost immediately. The unfinished stays alive in your mind. The completed fades. And third, the mysterious. Unexplained phenomena create a specific kind of curiosity that locks attention in place until an explanation appears. If I told you that a small town in Oregon has had 17 car accidents at the same intersection in 12 months, and nobody can figure out why, you'd want to know the answer. You couldn't help it. Mystery is one of the most powerful attention magnetizers because the brain treats unexplained patterns as threats that need resolution. And this is where Sam's story takes a turn. After reading Pre-Suasion, Sam tried something radically different before his next client call. Instead of opening with the pitch, instead of jumping straight to deliverables and timelines, he opened with a question. Just one. Before we start, can you tell me about the biggest challenge you're facing with your marketing right now? That's it. One question. 14 words. But that question did something powerful. It forced the client to focus on their problem, to feel the weight of it, to articulate out loud exactly what wasn't working and why it was costing them money. And by the time Sam started presenting his solution 12 minutes later, the client's attention was already locked onto the exact problem Sam's proposal addressed. Same pitch he'd given 20 times before. Different opening. The client said yes in 14 minutes flat. Now pay attention to this because it connects everything we've covered so far. Robert Cialdini dives deep into the role of association in Pre-Suasion. And this is where the science gets genuinely fascinating. Every thought in your brain is connected to other thoughts through invisible links. When one concept gets activated, related concepts light up automatically, like Christmas lights on a string. Pull one and the whole chain glows. He summarizes it with 6 words that capture the entire mechanism. I link, therefore I think. Here's what that means in practice. If someone says the word warm before you meet a stranger, you're statistically more likely to perceive that stranger as friendly, generous, and trustworthy. If someone says cold, you'll perceive the same stranger as distant, reserved, and calculating. The word didn't change the stranger, it changed your mental framework for evaluating them. And you won't even know it happened. It's like putting on tinted sunglasses before walking outside. Everything you see after that is filtered through the color of the lens, but you forget you're wearing the glasses. Pre-suasion is choosing which lens the audience wears before they look at your message. And the right lens can make the difference between a yes and a no, without changing a single word of what you're asking for. And Cialdini proves this isn't limited to words. Physical environments prime behavior too. And the evidence is remarkable. He calls this persuasive geographies. People are measurably more helpful when they're standing near a church. Students perform better on tests when they take the exam in the same room where they learned the material. Not a different room with the same desks and chairs, but the actual room. Context matters. And here's one that blew my mind. Researchers gave participants either a warm cup of coffee or an iced coffee to hold for just a few seconds. Then those participants evaluated a complete stranger. The ones who held the warm coffee rated the stranger as warmer, friendlier, and more trustworthy. The ones who held the iced coffee rated the same stranger as colder and more distant. Let that sink in. The temperature of a cup of coffee changed how people judged another human being. That's not persuasion, that's pre-suasion. The environment did the convincing before the conversation even started. Sam tested this immediately. His next client meeting was scheduled in a cold, sterile conference room with fluorescent lighting and gray walls. The kind of room that makes you feel like you're about to get audited. Sam changed the venue. Booked a sunlit cafe with warm wood tables instead. Brought hot lattes. Same exact pitch he'd given a dozen times before in the conference room. The client was noticeably more open, more engaged, more receptive. Laughed at Sam's jokes, asked follow-up questions instead of checking the clock. The proposal didn't change by a single word. The geography did. And geography, according to Cialdini, is pre-suasion you can feel but can't name. Okay, so if all of that was surprising, wait until you hear this. Cialdini doesn't just explain pre-suasion as a standalone concept. He circles back to his famous 6 principles of influence and shows how each one becomes exponentially more powerful when used as a persuasive tool. Not just applied during the message, but deployed before the message even begins. Reciprocity. Give something valuable before you ask for something in return. When you lead with generosity, the other person's brain activates the obligation to reciprocate before your request even lands. A free sample isn't just kindness, it's persuasion. Liking, establish warmth and similarity before you make your pitch. If someone already feels connected to you, your message passes through a friendlier filter. Everything sounds better coming from someone you like. Social proof. Show that others have already said yes before asking for your prospect's yes. When the brain sees others agreeing, it pre-frames agreement as the default response. You're not asking them to be first. You're asking them to join the crowd. Authority. Establish your expertise and credibility before presenting your recommendation. If trust is already in place, your advice gets processed as guidance rather than a sales pitch. Scarcity. Highlight uniqueness and limited availability before revealing the offer. When the brain registers rarity first, the offer feels inherently more valuable when it arrives. And consistency. Get a small yes before you ask for the big yes. Once someone agrees to something small, their brain creates pressure to stay consistent with that initial commitment. The small yes paves the road for the big one. But here's the part nobody talks about. In Pre-Suasion, Cialdini introduces a 7th principle that wasn't in his original book. He waited 32 years to reveal it. He calls it unity, and he says it might be the most powerful force of influence he's ever studied. Unity isn't about liking someone. It's about belonging with them. And the difference is massive. Liking means I enjoy this person's company. I think they're interesting. I find them pleasant. Unity means this person is one of use. It operates through shared identity. Family, nationality, profession, religion, ethnicity, shared experience, shared struggle. When someone is perceived as part of your group, their influence skyrockets. Not because you like them more, but because your brain processes their words as coming from inside the tribe rather than outside it. And information from inside the tribe gets a completely different level of trust. Can you guess why this matters so much for persuasion? Because a recommendation from one of us is processed completely differently than a recommendation from someone I happen to like. A fellow veteran telling another veteran about a financial service isn't liking. It's unity. A mom in a parenting group recommending a sleep training method to another exhausted mom isn't social proof. It's identity. The trust is deeper, the resistance is lower, and the influence is stronger than anything liking alone can produce. Sam used to market his consulting services to small business owners. Generic. Broad. So nobody responded with any real urgency. His outreach emails got opened and ignored. Then he reframed his positioning entirely. Instead of, I help small businesses with marketing, he wrote something different. I built this service for freelancers who left corporate jobs because I left a corporate job 3 years ago too. I know what it's like to trade a steady paycheck for freedom and then realize freedom doesn't pay the bills. Same service, different identity frame. Suddenly, prospects in his target market felt something shift. He wasn't just a consultant offering help from the outside, he was one of them. Someone who'd walked the same path, felt the same fear, and figured out a way through. The response rate tripled in 2 weeks, not because his service improved by a single feature, because his persuasive frame triggered unity, and unity opens doors that expertise alone can't touch. And Cialdini goes even deeper with this principle. Unity isn't just about being in the same group. It's about doing things together. Synchronized activities, collaborative work, shared experiences, joint creation. When you invite someone to co-create a solution with you, rather than presenting a finished product for their approval, their commitment to the outcome skyrockets. They're not evaluating your work anymore. They're protecting their work because they helped build it. This is why brainstorming sessions create more buy-in than presentations. This is why asking someone to contribute to a plan makes them champion it. Co-creation triggers unity in action, and unity in action is almost impossible to resist. And if you only remember one thing from this video, make it this next part. Cialdini closes Pre-Suasion with something critical. a chapter on ethics that ties everything together. Pre-suasion is a powerful tool. It can be used for manipulation or for mutual benefit, and Cialdini argues passionately for the ethical path. Ethical persuasion means directing attention toward genuinely relevant features of the situation that already exist. The fire safety consultant didn't fabricate danger. He helped the homeowner focus on danger that was real. The warm coffee didn't create trustworthiness in the stranger. It directed attention toward the kind of warmth that makes honest evaluation easier. The questions Sam learned to ask didn't manufacture a problem. It helped the client articulate a problem they already had. The line between ethical persuasion and manipulation is simple. Are you revealing truth or manufacturing illusion? Persuasion at its best is a flashlight. It illuminates what's already there. At its worst, it's a projector, casting images that don't exist. Cialdini is unequivocal. Use the flashlight. Here are 5 things you can start doing right now based on what we just covered. First, before any important conversation, pitch, or request, ask yourself one question. What do I want this person to be thinking about in the moment before I deliver my message? Don't just prepare your argument. Prepare the mental environment your argument will land in. If you're asking for a raise, start the conversation by asking your boss about the team's recent wins. Prime achievement before you request the reward. If you're pitching a project, start by asking about the biggest problem the team is facing. Then position your project as the solution. The setup creates the reception. Second, use the question technique Sam discovered. Before presenting a solution, ask the other person to describe their problem in their own words. This forces their brain to focus on the pain, which makes your solution feel like relief rather than a sales pitch. One question, asked at the right moment, can double your effectiveness. It works in sales calls. It works in job interviews. It works in difficult conversations with your partner. The question isn't manipulation, it's attention direction. Third, audit your physical environment before important interactions. Are you meeting in a cold, sterile room or a warm, inviting space? Is the lighting harsh or comfortable? Are you offering warm drinks or cold ones? These details aren't trivial. They persuade before a single word is spoken. Warm environments produce warmer evaluations. Comfortable spaces lower resistance. Choose your geography as deliberately as you choose your words. Fourth, look for unity triggers in every relationship that matters to you. Don't just find common interests, find shared identity. Are you both parents? Both first-generation immigrants? Both people who changed careers in their 30s? Both night owls? Name it, speak from it. When someone feels you're genuinely one of them, not performing similarity but living the same experience, persuasion becomes conversation instead of confrontation. Unity is the shortcut to trust that no amount of credentials can replace. Fifth, before your next presentation or proposal, front-load one piece of your strongest evidence. Don't save your best data for the dramatic reveal in the middle. Give the audience a reason to believe you before the bulk of your message arrives. That early credibility becomes the lens through which everything after it gets evaluated. Open with your most surprising statistic. Lead with your strongest case study. Start with a result that makes people lean forward and think. Tell me more. Let persuasion do the heavy lifting so your message doesn't have to. Sam learned this the hard way. He used to build to his best data point slowly, saving the knockout punch for slide 32. Now he leads with it. And the difference in how clients respond from minute 1 is night and day. That's it for this video. I hope it was useful and gave you something real to think about. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.